mind it. You'll look cool wearing it. And you support me. It's a win-win situation, everybody. That's it for me. See you tomorrow with another video.
You're back.
You asked for it.
None will survive. The pleasure is mine. I wonder.
Fight is a very good fight.
Mixed martial arts world.
Wrestlers as well.
Sulbin is about to push his body almost beyond the realms of possibility. And if you want to try and join him, get ready to hold your breath for as long as you can. He takes one last breath. Focused and calm, Sulbin descends 20 meters to the sea floor.
Someday I'll be just like you!
His heartbeat slows to around 30 beats per minute. The pressure at these depths crushes his chest, squeezing the air in his lungs to 1/3 of its usual volume. Even without weights, he's negatively buoyant enough to stride across the bottom of the sea as if hunting on land. By now, the carbon dioxide in his blood causes an almost irresistible urge to gasp for air. But Sulbin must keep his mind on the hunt. After 1 minute and 3/4, Sulbin spots a fish. Sulbin can go even deeper than this and stay down for up to 5 minutes. But he's not one to show off, and after all, he's got what he came for. 2.5 minutes of hunting under pressure on one breath. Perhaps the idea of humans existing as marine mammals is not so far-fetched after all.
I wonder.
How long can you stay underwater? It might depend on the size of your, wait for it, spleen. Recent studies have revealed human adaptations to the high altitudes of the Andes and the Himalayas. These adaptations involve the ability of blood to carry or hold oxygen in these low oxygen heights. Now, researchers are looking for adaptations in people who spend a lot of time underwater. The Bajo people, also known sometimes as the sea nomads, have spent thousands of years diving deep underwater without tanks or snorkels. Bajo divers may spend as much as 60% of their workday under the surface, spearing fish and harvesting sea cucumbers. Many mammals, including people, have something called a dive reflex, which is triggered when you plunge your face into the water. Once submerged, your heart rate slows, vessels in your extremities constrict, shunting blood to the body's core, and your spleen gets a big squeeze. This spleen squeeze pumps oxygen-rich red blood cells into the bloodstream. And the researchers in this study found that the Bajo have spleens that are 50% larger than their land-based neighbors. It's possible that these larger spleens may serve as a reservoir for extra oxygenated blood needed for long, breathless dives. The researchers then looked to see if there was a genetic component. They wanted to know if big spleens are inherited or if there was something else going on. After comparing the Bajo DNA with DNA from nearby farmers and from Han Chinese, the team found 25 genes that were different in the Bajo. One notable difference was in a gene called PDE10A. Other researchers have found that in mice, this gene can affect thyroid activity, which in turn affects spleen size. While it's unlikely one gene is responsible for the size of the spleen, the research strongly we do.
I will silence their screams.
Hi. Can I come in?
This is Mang, a member of the Bajo, so-called sea gypsies, and masters of these waters. He's taking me on a fishing trip into the seas which are his home.
completely gone.
Mang makes it look effortless. And the Badjo can almost reach out and take all they need from the sea. Because with over 2,000 species of fish and over 600 species of coral, these waters, known as the Coral Triangle, are the most biodiverse and productive in the world.
That was great.
Fish caught, Mang takes me to his village. Home to over 1,000 Badjo people, all living off the fruits of the sea.
So there's lots of little fish swimming around.
I did.
Well played.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Ouais, ils camouflent les tatous, c'est vrai. Donc pour les personnes qui ne savent pas, les kudos, c'est des cadeaux du mois. Donc en fait, ce sont des produits qu'on a, que ce soit exclusifs, soit qu'on a déjà en général, donc des produits uniques qui sont en général moins chers. Donc c'est des cadeaux clients que les représentants aussi peuvent commander. Et en général, c'est à très bon prix, etc. Et à chaque mois d'août, à chaque année, pardon, durant le mois d'août, le kudo du mois est réservé, donc est en lien en fait avec la fondation Unique, une fondation qui est voilà, et pour énormément de personnes également. Donc cette année, le kudo que j'ai représenté avait donc incluait 3 produits vraiment juste incroyables qui étaient exclusifs. Donc
Amazing.
In the light's name.
Someone called for this. It's playtime. How long can this
sensitive secrets long after their time in government has ended. Such access is particularly inappropriate when former officials have transitioned into highly partisan positions and seek to use real or perceived access to sensitive information to validate their political attacks. Any access granted to our nation's secrets should be in furtherance of national, not personal interest. For this reason, I've also begun to review the more general question of the access to classified information by government officials. As part of this review, I am evaluating action with respect to the following individuals: James Clapper, James Comey, Michael Hayden, Sally Yates, Susan Rice, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, and Bruce Orr. Security clearances for those who still have them may be revoked, and those who have already lost their security clearance may not be able to have it reinstated. It is for the foregoing reasons that I have exercised my constitutional authority to deny Mr. Brennan access to classified information, and I will direct appropriate staff of the National Security Council to make the necessary arrangements with the appropriate agencies to implement this determination. With that, I'll take your question. Jonathan.
Sir, first I've got a question I wanted to ask you first, just to follow up on that. It seems like everybody that you mentioned has been a political critic of the president. Is he going after his political opponents with this?
No, if there were others that weren't, that we deemed necessary, we would certainly take a look and review those as well.
Okay, I want to ask you about something the president's attorney said. Rudy Giuliani said of the special counsel Robert Mueller needs to write the damn reports and he said if it's not written within the next 2 or 3 weeks, quote, we will just unload on him like a ton of bricks. Is the president okay with his attorney threatening the special counsel in this way?
Certainly, we've made clear we'd like to see this wrap up. For questions specific about comments by Mr. Giuliani, I'd refer you back to him.
Was that authorized by the president?
Once again, for questions specific about the investigation, particularly comments from Rudy Giuliani, I'd refer you back to him to address those. Jeff?
Hey, Sarah. Following up on John's question, how is this announcement by the president, how can Americans not interpret that as isn't it also an attempt to curtail their freedom of speech by penalizing them for being critical on television?
Not at all. The president has a constitutional responsibility to protect classified information and who has access to it, and that's what he's doing, is fulfilling that responsibility in this action. This is actually specific to Mr. Brennan, and the others are currently under review.
Is this the kind of precedent he wants to set for future presidents when his administration is out of office? And why are there no Republicans on that list?
Once again, if we deemed it necessarily, we would certainly look into that and be happy to review those. Justin?
I wanted to ask about Turkey, just to buttonhole on what Jeff said. I guess the reason people would say that this argument strains credibility is there's obvious examples, even from this administration. Your former national security advisor is admitted to lying to the FBI. Why is this only a list of Democrats that are critical of the administration, and why should Americans have confidence that you are taking this seriously if there's not a single Republican on that list?
Again, certainly we would look at those if we deemed it necessary, and we'll keep you posted if that list gets updated.
So on Turkey, Turkey announced today that they're going to slap tariffs on about $1 billion of American goods. So I'm wondering if you have a response to that, and if there's any discussion internally about retaliating towards that and continuing to escalate this.
Yeah, the tariffs from Turkey are certainly regrettable and a step in the wrong direction. The tariffs that the United States placed on Turkey were out of national security interest. Theirs are out of retaliation. I'm not going to get ahead of anything on what we may or may not do in an effort to respond, but certainly we don't support Turkey's decision to retaliate against us protecting our national security interest.
An appeals court in Turkey today denied Pastor Brunson's appeal to try to be released. Does the administration view that as a new setback or as sort of maintaining the status quo?
We feel that Turkey, and specifically President Erdogan, have treated Pastor Brunson, who we know to be a very good person and a strong Christian who's done nothing wrong, very unfairly, very badly, and it's something that we won't forget in the administration. Let's move on. Jake, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So the administration has put up a robust defense of Pastor Brunson. At the same time, there are tens of thousands of Christians in North Korea who have been imprisoned almost exclusively because of their religion. Open Door USA considered North Korea to be the #1 country when it comes to persecution of the Christians. Is this something that the administration has also been looking into?
Certainly, we would like to see any individual persecuted for their Christian beliefs or imprisoned released. Again, we've been working with North Korea on a number of fronts. That's something we'd certainly like to see them change their behavior. I know it's been discussed, and again, certainly something we'd like to see their behavior changed on. Sorry, Jake, I gotta keep. Go ahead.
Here's my question. Although
Alors,
territory held by ISIS has been reduced by over
voici
90%,
Bang.
this UN report suggests that as many
Voilà.
as 30,000 ISIS members still exist in Iraq and Syria. So, first of all, what's the administration's
Ah,
take
il fait
on
que là,
this
faut trouver là, il y en a vraiment,
UN
ils l'ont-
report? And secondly, what would the administration consider an overall victory against ISIS?
We'd like to see every single member of ISIS defeated across the globe. I think that would be the ultimate victory. John, go ahead.
Thanks a lot, Sarah.
Bon.
Closing arguments are taking place across the river in Alexandria for the tax fraud trial of Paul Manafort. And in mid-June, the president said that he felt badly for Mr. Manafort and that he believes he's being treated unfairly. Is the president still friends with Mr. Manafort? When was the last time he spoke with Mr. Manafort?
I'm not aware of any recent conversations that they've had. Blake?
I believe he's being treated unfairly.
I think that the president's made that clear in
6
his
minutes de
previous
footage.
comments. I don't have any.
Ça roule, 1080p, 30 FPS, les gars, ça s'en va sur YouTube! Woo! Share, like, and subscribe!
The suggestion that this has to do with the pastor that is being held in Turkey. Simply put, if Pastor Brunson is allowed to leave Turkey, do those tariff levels go away? Is that kind of the deal that could be in place?
No,
Is that a deal that could be on the table?
the tariffs that are in place on steel would not be removed with the release of Pastor Brunson. The tariffs are specific to national security. The sanctions, however, that have been placed on Turkey are specific to Pastor Brunson and others that we feel are being held unfairly, and we would consider that at that point.
What, in the interest of national security, what's changed over the last month or so with Turkey that you're justifying national security?
Again, the president's been clear about the steel and aluminum industries, steel particularly in this case, that those are industries that must be protected. We must have the ability to reach certain levels of manufacturing of those products here in the United States for the purposes of national security. John?
Thank you, Sarah. I was going to ask about Turkey, but based on your opening statement, I have to point out that the attorneys for former Director Comey and former Deputy Director McCabe say that their passes were automatically demagnetized the day that they were separated from their offices. Two others, Mr. Clapper and General Hayden, have said they do not use the pass at all. And also, it's my understanding from an historical standpoint, this would be the first time the president himself removed the passes from anybody, that has normally been done by agency heads or immediate superiors to
Well
people.
played.
Have you considered all these things in the process you say you're going to?
Again, the other individuals, those are being reviewed, and that determination will be made at a later date. Those that have already been revoked would be for the purpose of reviewing whether or not they should be reinstated or not. Major.
You outlined two areas of either contradictory or erroneous testimony from Brennan. Is that the only standard by which this administration is asserting we should have his security clearance revoked?
Again, I laid out the reasons in the opening statement specific to Director Brennan. The others are currently under review. I don't have any specifics on this at this point.
Not the standard. You give erroneous testimony. You say something you have to correct at a certain date in the future. You work for this administration. Does that mean you lose your security clearance?
My understanding is this is being looked at on a case-by-case
played.
basis, which is why each individual is being reviewed and determination made at that point.
Does this administration have any reason to believe or evidence to suggest Brennan has misused classified information or monetized his access to it, as was alleged earlier by this administration.
Again, I've laid out the reasons for the decision that was made on this specific instance. We'll continue to review the other actions. Andrew?
Could we assume by the absence of you not saying those things, you didn't find any evidence of that?
No, I wouldn't make any assumptions. I'm telling you what the decision was based off on in this case. Andrew?
Thank you very much. I wanted to follow up on the question yesterday about Afghanistan. Today there was another suicide attack in Kabul which killed 37 people. The military base in the north has been overrun by the Taliban. They have also seized parts of the eastern provincial capital. Why do you think President Trump's strategy in Afghanistan is working?
As always, we're going to continue to review and look at the best ways to move forward. I'll leave it to the Department of Defense to get into specifics about tactical situations on the ground. What I can tell you is that we're committed to finding a political solution to end the conflict in Afghanistan. We're exploring all avenues for dialogue and close coordination with the Afghan government. We're going to continue to do that. If we have announcements or changes in the policy, we'll certainly let you know. Peter?
The Turkey question, if I may. Have you guys assessed whether the liquidity situation in Turkey's financial sector is a risk in light of the fall of the lira? It's fallen like a quarter in the last 3 or 4 days.
Certainly, we're monitoring the situation with respect to the Turkish economy and the decline of the lira, but Turkey's economic problems, those are part of a long-term trend, something of its own making and not the result of any actions the United States has taken. Sager?
Thank you, Sarah. One of the individuals that you listed on that list of clearance that is under review is Bruce Ord. He's a current employee of the Department of Justice. So instead of putting him under the review, does the president believe he should be fired?
I don't have any personnel announcements on that front. I can only speak to this specific.
Why put a security clearance under review, which would render him unable to do his job and not just fire him?
Once again, I don't have any personnel announcements on that front. I can just tell you we're looking into that specific matter. Peter? Sorry, I called on you earlier.
Thank you, Sarah. If people who criticize the president publicly on TV, public in their criticisms, are they at greater risk of losing their security clearances than people who stay silent?
Once again, this is looked at on a case-by-case basis, and we'll do an individual review and make that determination. Kevin?
Thank you, Sarah. A question about the return of lawmakers on Capitol Hill, and then a follow-up very quickly. Now that they're back, can you sort of lay out the White House strategy for moving forward with this agenda? We've talked about wall funding. Obviously, a lot of people are very curious about the Kavanaugh nomination moving forward, DACA and other issues. Is there a strategy in place to begin to work with lawmakers now that they're back?
Certainly. We have continued ongoing conversations on a number of fronts with lawmakers, even while they were not here in Washington. We are happy that the hearing dates have been set for Justice Kavanaugh, and we look forward to seeing him get Kavanaugh.
First of all, you didn't mention anything about a possible shutdown. Is that still something that the president is continuing? And my follow-up is going to be in the Farm Bill. There are a great number of people in a great number of states that are curious about this work requirement the USDA is trying to implement. In some places, they already have it. They say you have to work. In other areas, you don't have that requirement. Is that something the White House still supports?
Something we still support in terms of a shutdown. I don't have any announcements on that front. We certainly still want to see a lot of things happen. We'd love for Congress to actually do its job, particularly when it comes to immigration. We have a completely broken system, and we'd like to see them work with us to fix it. Catherine?
Thank you, Sarah.
I don't have any updates for you on that right now. Catherine?
Omarosa Manigault Newman was the highest-ranking African-American staffer in the West Wing. No black...
She actually didn't work in the West Wing, but go ahead.
No staffer has been appointed at level since her absence. Can you tell us exactly how many African-American staffers there are in this building? And is it a priority for the administration to reflect the diversity of the country?
Certainly, as I addressed yesterday, we value diversity not just at the White House, but throughout the entire administration. And we're going to continue trying to diversify the staff. We have a large number of diverse staffers from various backgrounds, both race, religion, gender.
Are there in this building?
Look, I'm not going to go through and do a count. The same way I'm not going to do a sit down and count on the staffers that are in your news organizations.
13% of the country is African
And we would love to diversify our staff and continue to do so. We do think it's important. We're going to continue to work to make that happen. Raquel?
Sarah, thank you very much. About the election last night, we are seeing the Democrats embracing more diversity, choosing Muslims, also candidates, transgender candidates, rejecting president's agenda. So my question is, what do you think will be the impact of his agenda and also these recent controversies about race and minorities on the election in November?
Again, I think people are looking at the policies that the individuals are implementing and how those are going to affect those communities and whether or not it's actually going to help individuals, people across this country.
Good Sunday morning.
That's what
She
we're
was a
looking at.
reality
That's what
TV
we're
star who
focused
wound
on.
up
That's what we're
working
gonna
in a
continue to do.
reality
We'll take one
TV
last
star's
question.
wife.
Amen.
By her own admission, Omarosa Manigault Newman and Donald Trump used each other. In her new book, Unhinged, an insider's account of the Trump White House, Omarosa writes, Donald and I had a symbiotic relationship, as I've said. I gave him ratings, and he gave me, a woman of color, opportunities. That relationship started on The Apprentice in 2004 and continued through a series of reality TV shows.
I adore you. We've had tremendous success together. You helped make me a star. Dennis, she helped to make me a star. But Omarosa, you're fired.
In 2016, she joined the Trump campaign as Director of African American Outreach on the trail, and subsequently as the most senior African American woman on the White House staff. And she became one of Mr. Trump's most vocal supporters.
When I say Trump train, I want you to say choo-choo. Y'all ready?
Every critic, every detractor will have to bow down to President Trump.
I had the honor to travel around the country with the president for the last 2 years. You all know him as the president. I know him as a friend. I know his heart.
But since she was fired in December, she's turned on President Trump, and now in her new book, she calls the president a racist, a bigot, and a misogynist, and says he is losing his mental faculties. The White House has fired back in a statement, quote, "This book is riddled with lies and false accusations. It's sad that a disgruntled former White House employee is trying to profit off these false attacks." And Omarosa has a recording that she says she recently made, that she secretly made of her firing by John Kelly.
We've got to talk to you about leaving the White House. It's come to my attention over the last few months that there's been some pretty, in my opinion, significant integrity issues.
You're going to hear more of that recording in a moment. So Omarosa Manigault Newman, former assistant to President Trump, Director of Communications for the White House Office of Public Liaison, joins me now.
Thank you for having me, Chuck.
Welcome to Meet the Press. Let me start with what you describe in your book as a year-long effort to learn the truth about a rumor that Donald Trump had been caught on tape using the N-word while working on The Apprentice. And here's how you wrote about confirming with a source that the tape does in fact exist. Page 322 of your book. On this phone conversation, I was told exactly what Donald Trump said. Yes, the N-word and others in a classic Trump goes nuclear rant. And when he'd said them, during production, he was mic'd, and there's definitely an audio track. For over a year, I'd been so afraid of hearing the specifics from someone who'd been in the room. Hearing the truth freed me from that fear. Did you hear the tape, or did you hear a description of the tape?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. And in this book, I describe this long journey of hearing these rumors over and over again. And when I had an opportunity to meet up with 3 different sources, they described the same exact statements. After I closed the book, I had an opportunity to go out in Los Angeles and sit down with the person who actually has a copy of the tape. And I heard his voice as clear as you and I are sitting here.
You have heard the tape?
I have heard
since
the
publication of this book?
Absolutely.
So you know it exists?
And I know it exists. And what I regret is that these people are probably trying to leverage it as this October surprise. I don't want to be a part of that. But I have heard for 2 years that it existed, and once I heard it for myself, it was confirmed what I feared the most, that Donald Trump is a con and has been masquerading as someone who is actually open to engaging with diverse communities. But when he talks that way, the way he did on this tape, it confirmed that he is truly a racist.
Why didn't you get that in your book?
Close too soon, and I have been tracking. This person is so afraid because of the forces who are working to keep this tape from coming out. I mean, we first heard about it in the fall of 2016, got on a conference call with Katrina Pearson, Lynn Patton, and Jason Miller, as you'll see in the book, and they all suspected that it was true. In fact, Katrina Pearson, the spokeswoman for the campaign, said, "Oh, he said it. It's true."
But she never heard her say it, and she heard him say it, and
Well,
she's denied the
Is
anecdote.
she denying? I mean, she knows I have receipts. I think she should probably
Let me
read
ask you
the
this.
book
Had
first
you
and
personally-
then hear herself saying it.
Before listening to that tape, before getting the tape that
Mm-hmm.
you just described, had you ever heard him? Were you ever in his presence when he used a racial slur?
You know, I was in his presence when he said inappropriate things, but he has never said the N-word in my presence, ever.
All right, let me move on, because you said that the betrayal, the idea that he might have used this word, that it would be this betrayal because you thought it would mean that he might have used it about you.
Oh,
Do you
absolutely.
believe he used it about you?
Possibly, because Donald Trump talks about everyone behind their backs. You leave the room, Chuck, he has a nickname probably for you. He has a nickname for everyone in his administration and in his circle. So I am pretty certain that he's probably said some very derogatory things about me. In fact, yesterday, on this moment before Charlottesville, the anniversary of Charlottesville, instead of talking about how to unify the nation, he actually insulted me by calling me a lowlife. That is a man who is inclined to start racially charged engagement and use race to kind of stir up his base.
Here's what I think a lot of people are going to have trouble with. He has said a lot of racial things. He said a lot of racial things during the campaign, calling Mexican racist, attacking a federal judge because he was Hispanic. You even talk about his obsession with the, quote, Central Park 5 mythology there, retweeting false crime statistic. All of that was taking place. And you said, you acknowledged that he did things that were racial, that he used race to manipulate people. You've said all those things. And then you wrote this in December of 2016. I am living the American dream because of Donald Trump. Look at my career, the wealth and exposure that I've had. It's very difficult to make the argument that Donald Trump doesn't like black people and black women.
Absolutely. Being used by Donald Trump for so long, I was like the frog in the hot water. You don't know that you're in that situation until it just keeps bubbling and bubbling. It's clear in hindsight, because hindsight, of course, is 2020. But as I talk about in Unhinged, you get to see from 2003, when I first met Donald Trump, the evolution of a very unique relationship between he and I. And I talk very, very intimately about the things that he said, his pledge to do more for the community, his, as I said, investment in my own career. But what I know now, I didn't have the benefit of in 2003 or 2004 or 2010. And so, yes, it is hindsight. But I will say this to you, I was complicit with this White House deceiving this nation. They continue to deceive this nation by how mentally declined he is, how difficult it is for him to process complex information, how he is not engaged in some of the most important decisions that impacts our country. I was complicit, and for that, I regret.
Well, one of those moments of complicity took place after Charlottesville.
Oh, yeah.
This is the president, the day after Charlottesville, he condemned the egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides. This is before he said the both sides comment, but he had already used the phrase many sides. 2 days later, you were on Fox News defending him. Here's what you said.
President Trump, he said that he condemned the acts. He knew that they were disgusting and loathsome, but he did not come out until the facts were known about the investigation. And today, he made a statement that was very clear and very decisive about where he stood on these acts.
What do you think of that, Omarosa?
Absolutely. I mean, as you said, it was
That's
before he
complicit?
started.
Was that complicit,
Oh, totally
Omarosa?
complicit. In fact, I had a blind spot where it came to Donald Trump. I wanted to see the best in him. And obviously, I felt miserably, because after that, he gets up and he says that there are good people on both sides, when he should have been denouncing what we saw as clearly racists, Nazis going against the grain of this country. And it's just really difficult to see that I was so much a part of this. And I accept and I admit that I was. But now I think it's important that as we are celebrating, well, actually observing the anniversary of Charlottesville, that he has an opportunity actually to bring the country together. But you'll see that he doesn't have the ability to do that, because he puts himself over country every day.
Here's what many people are saying, though, that after Charlottesville, you didn't resign. And yes, you wanted to work on the, I think, Historically Black College Initiative.
Which would have been a
I understand that.
yes.
I understand that. But then you didn't leave after that. You didn't leave after he had that unfortunate call with the widow of the dead soldier. You didn't leave after he called kneeling NFL players SOBs. And this is what Jelani Cobb wrote in the New Yorker about your new perspective. Her realization about Trump's outlook appears to have emerged at some point during her book deal. That's not a gradual awakening, it's a glacial, self-interested one. There's going to be many people here that say, you're now identifying him as a racist after you got your book deal. What do you say to that criticism?
Well, first of all, I need to push back about that. First of all, I am an author. This is my third book. I write about my life. I write about the things that happen in my life. So the assertion that I just woke up and decided I'm going to write a book when this is my third book, that's, you know, I have to push on that. But certainly, I was working to try to find someone who could take my place. I was the only African American at the table. If I left, which I did, when I left, there has been no new appointment of an African-American assistant to the president, which means that people are making decisions about us without us. And as I worked to find that replacement, I realized that they could care less about having an African-American voice at the table. And to this day, there is no one serving in that administration in the role that I was in. And that's a great void. And so the people who want to judge...
Ça va? Ouais, toi? Tu m'entends ou? Ouais, toi? M'entends, mais c'est que je vois pas mon affaire bouger dans le Discord. Fuck.
Ah non, mais tu fais du bruit en masse, mon gars.
Ah, ok. Ah là, il est allumé, je suis correct. Là, tu fais du bruit en masse.
Tu fais?
Pas grand chose, là. Je suis en train de m'occuper de mes comptes, puis je m'en venais jouer. J'allais te prendre ma douche avant. Ça serait fait. J'ai trouvé un gars qui a des genres de... Je sais pas comment ça s'appelle, là, des workshops, là. C'est comme... Il y a full de skin de gunman fucking chacoche, mais je sais pas si on peut les changer pour genre dans le jeu, mais on peut-tu se faire ban pour ça ou etc. Je sais pas.
Dans quel jeu là tu parles?
CSGO.
C'est quoi t'as fait?
Là j'ai rien fait là, mais c'est quelqu'un qui m'a montré sa page tout, puis le gars il fait genre des peintures pour les guns. Mais genre c'est pas des peintures qui est dans le marché. Fait que genre c'est un... Ouais, c'est comme tu modrais, mais personne d'autre le voit à part toi, genre, je pense.
Yeah boy. Moi je sais pas. Tu peux pas modder CS. Ouais,
Ben il y en a plein qui le faisaient, mais...
Ouais,
genre...
mais là il va peut-être avoir une ban wave pis ton IP va être dedans, pis là ça va te fuck ta vie.
non, je vais pas l'essayer, j'ai genre 1500 pièces de vendeur. Mais ils sont fucking nice, man. Ah, pis il y a une vidéo aussi, How to Create Skin pour CSGO Special French. Je vais t'envoyer sa page.
J'ai pas de Fireball.
Parce que c'est des workshops. C'est des affaires qui est dans le workshop de CSGO pareil.
Ok.
Fait que je sais pas si c'est legit ou pas, check. Je t'ai envoyé sa page profil.
Non, mais c'est
Puis regarde.
Steam modé, là. Je veux dire, y'a pas de limite, là.
Ben je sais pas, je connais pas assez ça, puis je... Dans le fond, je pense qu'ils proposent des nouvelles cases, man. Parce que check Royal Light Collection, puis ils montrent qu'à la K, la M4, des Oregon, puis le WAP avec un point d'exclamation. Votre aussi Collection and I new case. Mais fucking nice la coupe, tout là, c'est la coupe avec un dragon, puis ça pas de même. GG amazing, genre y a full de commentaires, puis etc. Puis dans le groupe, ils sont genre 36 849. Fait que ça doit être legit là. Il y a plusieurs guns qu'il a fait là. De Zenix série, hey, ils sont malades. Le snipe il est fou raide.
Ben, tu m'as envoyé sur Discord?
Ouais.
Ah ouais.
Puis là, tu vas voir sur sa page profil, genre. Tu peux voir dans ses affaires de workshop pis tout là. Je sais que les Zenix, comme il est malade, le snipe pis tout. Mais je sais pas si c'est genre 100% vertical. Tu sais, je sais pas si genre ça, tu peux mettre ça pour pour jouer, genre. Que c'est juste ceux qui le voient, mais c'est pas grave, là. C'est des crises de beaux skins. Tu comprends ce que je veux dire?
Ouais.
Tu joues déjà à CSGO ou. Ouais, sûrement.
Check. Would you like to see this set of items officially accepted and supported in Counter-Strike Global Offensive?
C'est quoi c'est ça?
Ben, il me demande si tu veux voir ça accepté dans CSGO. Fait que dans le fond, là, mettons comments.
Fait que Salford, c'est un gars qui essaie de créer des skins pour des nouvelles
Fait
cases.
que là,
Puis
tout le
il fait voter
monde
par la
il
communauté.
dit... Puis là, il y a plein de monde qui disent j'aimerais ça qu'il soit dans le jeu. Fait que dans le fond, si t'es mets,
Fait
moi
que
je pense que t'as des risques de te faire ban.
Non, mais eux, ils parlent de bien qu'ils veulent, genre, qu'ils soient dans le marché pour justement que tout le monde peut le voir. Tu comprends ce que je veux dire?
C'est gars, l'autre il dit là oui ils sont cool, mais je connais Valve, ça veut dire on les verra probablement jamais dans le jeu. Fait que dans le fond, le gars il les a modés, mais si tu vas en ligne avec ces shit là, je te dis, tu vas te faire scraper.
Non,
Genre,
mais
tu
c'est
sais, tu
comme.
peux le faire là, moi j'ai donné mon avis là-dessus là.
Non, mais c'est comme, comme des affaires de config. Je sais pas si j'avais un ami qui faisait ça, lui. Il jouait genre avec le Dragon Lore pis tout, même à la game pis tout, mais qui achetait à terre pis tout, c'était un snipe vert ben normal, genre. C'est genre juste lui qui voit l'arme comme ça, genre.
Ouais, c'est un skin parmi
Mais
sur ton
tu peux
jeu
te
comme.
faire ban si je fais ça?
Ouais. D'après moi, oui. Tu peux pas modder dans CS. C'est pas accepté. Dans le sens que le gros,
Mais quoi,
c'est
tu peux pas
comme.
modder, c'est toutes des mods.
Ben, c'est toutes des mods. Alors, les hacks avec, c'est des mods.
Ouais, mais c'est des
Les
mods
autres.
hack, c'est pas la même affaire. C'est toutes des mods à la config. Déjà, ils ont créé une config. Une config, c'est fait pour modder.
You asked for it.
C'est ça, je veux te dire.
Ben,
C'est ça, je comprends pas. Tout est modé, genre. T'sais, ma résolution est
Ben.
modée, mon launcher est modé, tout est modé.
Ouais, dans ton interface.
Ouais.
Mais là, c'est plus qu'une interface. Parce
Mais
que l'interface, c'est
c'est pas juste
l'interface.
changer l'image de base d'un
C'est
arme,
comme
genre.
là, si tu changerais ton bonhomme de skin en WoW avec ton skin que t'as fait. Tu penses-tu vraiment que Blizzard le laisserait faire?
Ça, non. Mais les
Bon,
armes,
mais
ça.
tu penses-tu vraiment que CSGO va le faire? Tout leur argent qu'ils ont fait dans les 5 dernières années est basé sur un skin que t'achètes avec leur argent. Dans leur shit.
Ouais, mais moi, je préférais avoir un vrai skin que tout le monde peut voir que c'est juste toi qui le vois, tu comprends? C'est
Ouais,
pas
mais
la même affaire. Tu sais, je préfère payer pour avoir un skin, mais si le skin, je peux l'avoir pareil juste comme apparence. Ça, ça dérange sûrement pas Valve. Faudrait que je me renseigne. Tu sais, bouche sur Valve direct.
Moi, je pense que c'est pas accepté. Genre, si mettons tu irais jouer là, sur des maps offline, je pense que t'aurais aucun crise de problème. Tu sais, moi aussi, là, j'ai modé mon interface de WoW, j'ai modé mon interface de bien des jeux. Mais c'est l'interface, man.
Ouais, mais c'est ça. Surtout, l'apparence des skins, c'est l'interface pareil, non?
Ben, si t'aurais un private server, je te dirais oui. Mais si t'es sur le serveur, eux autres, là, dans ton code, là, ils vont le voir qu'il y a une anomalie, man. C'est sûr.
Ouais, je sais pas. Faudrait que je demande à du monde qui le
Ben, c'est
fasse.
ça, c'est sûr, mais d'après moi, je suis sûr. Mais, tu sais, je te dis ça 95%.
Ouais.
Ça se peut, man, qu'il n'y ait pas de problème, le gros, pis que tu puisses faire ça, man. Tu
Parce que
vois-tu
j'ai
bien
vu
des
plusieurs.
streamers faire ça? Tu vas avoir ta réponse tout de suite, là. Va voir le top 10 streamers, là. Puis
Ben,
demande dans le chat.
faudrait
Demande
que
dans le
j'aille
chat
voir.
de Twitch, là. Hey, can I use modded skin on my gun in CSGO competitive? Puis ils vont te répondre, là. Tu vas être répondu en 20 secondes. Puis
Ouais,
probablement plein de personnes, genre.
ouais, je vais aller voir si des eux français, genre.
Ouais, that's it.
Parcourir. Counter-Strike. Petit partie de CSGO entre amis. 13, 12. C'est pas vrai qu'il y en a beaucoup. Ouais, c'est une fille, j'aurais pas mal d'une fille. Je sais que c'est quoi son rank. Si c'est dans mes ranks, je vais peut-être bien l'ajouter pour jouer avec.
Ouais, souvent ça arrive, man. Je sais pas si c'est vieux en tabarnak.
Ah, j'aime bien ça, game avec des filles. Bon, on va les manger après. À la fin. Je t'offre ma saucisse. Moi, je pense qu'elle joue avec des filles en plus. J'ai une team de filles.
Ah ouais?
Ben, je sais pas, j'entends d'autres filles parler, genre sur ma son Discord.
C'est des filles ou des enfants? C'est quoi ton
Non,
rank?
ça a de l'air. Ben, je sais pas, je l'ai pas encore vu, elle a pas checké c'est les stats. Mais ça a de l'air des pas si pires, là.
Non, mais toi, ton rank, c'est quoi?
Ouais, là, je suis rendu Silver 5, mais j'étais Silver 6. Pas capable de rester Nova 1, esti. J'ai été genre 2-3 fois Nova 1, mais je joue trop avec des personnes qui ont des moins hauts rank. Mais ça me dérange pas, moi, je joue plus le fun. J'aime bien ça quand je dérank, même quand j'arrive des in-game Silver, c'est le fun. T'es quel rank?
Moi, je suis quelque part dans le Nova. Ça fait tellement longtemps que j'ai pas joué, je suis pas ça en ce moment, là. Je sais pas si je suis ranké, là. Ça fait quoi, 2 ans, toi, j'ai pas joué à ça, là, mais quand j'ai arrêté, j'étais double A.
Quoi? Tu veux que je fasse live? J'avais fait la crise de pelouse. Attends-tu?
Well played.
Elle trouve drôle pareil. Elle a la balle qui m'a mis, je pense, du missile. Une fille de France.
I wonder.
Shall we make a storm?
I wonder. lose little time. Science overwhelmed.
Amazing.
Here, Stormy, Stormy.
What to do?
When Earth moves, empires fall. Feeble minds.
Throwing fists. So I think he'll be back this year to fight Khabib.
Who do you think would win that?
I don't know, man. It's hard to be confident, and he's the most confident guy on the planet Earth. So I don't know. I don't know how he would stop Khabib from taking him down and eventually getting him to where he wants to fight. I would probably see Khabib winning, but his left hand is phenomenal, and you cannot take anything away from that thing.
Okay, last thing. Khabib Conor, who wins?
It's going to be a tough fight for both people. There's a lot of pressure for one guy, and then I mean, Khabib's supposed to win because a guy like Conor is new. It takes a long time to develop a formula to deal with somebody like George St. Pierre or Khabib. Yeah, there's a certain formula you have to use. You can't just lay on your back. You gotta turn over.
You can't just box him.
But you gotta know how to deal with,
About Khabib and Conor.
Man, I think Conor would get him. I think Khabib runs in recklessly, and I think Conor would put one on his chin and put him out cold.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. I really think that, yeah. I think Conor would put one on his chin and put him out cold.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. I really think that, yeah, honestly.
If I have to bet, if I have to bet,
I have to put the house on it.
If I have to put my house on it,
one of them.
The biggest one. If I have to put my house on it, I would have to choose Khabib over Conor. Khabib never lost. He never lost. And Conor have lost before. He have lost on the ground. He have a few losses, and he lost on the ground, where Khabib is good. That's where Khabib is the most competent as. However, Khabib sometimes has his slow starter, and he get punched a lot.
Michael Johnson.
Yes, he didn't look good in the beginning of the fight, and he's hard sometimes to close distance. You have a problem to close the distance, but once he got you in the clinch, he's very good. So I believe the chance, the odds goes on Khabib's favor, like maybe 60-40. I believe Khabib has more chance to win that fight than Conor. Conor has one way to win the fight. It will be to, if you catch him on the way in, standing up. Khabib, I think, has more chance to win. He can win by submission on the ground. He can win by ground and pound. If he goes to decision, the chances are very likely that is Khabib that's gonna win. I see more ways to win from Khabib than I see from Conor.
What's your opinion on that fight? When you first heard it, where were we at on that?
When I heard it a while ago and think it was going to happen, my money was on Khabib.
Yeah.
After Khabib's last performance against Al, I know Al's a good guy, a good fighter as well too.
Amazing fighter.
I just don't think his stand-up's there.
No,
I just don't.
I agree.
I feel like Conor's just got that left hand. He's fast. He's going to be able to use his angles, his crazy kicks.
His footwork.
And I've always underestimated the guy. And then he's
Conor?
Like, yeah. Like Eddie Alvarez. Oh, Eddie Alvarez is going to run through
I know.
him.
I thought it was a terrible matchup for him.
You know, Jose Aldo's going to beat him.
I know.
You know.
I look at that. Yeah, I did the exact same thing before Khabib fought Al.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I do not want to see Conor fight Khabib.
Yeah.
This is gonna be a terrible matchup for him. And then I watched that Al fight. I'm like, oh shit, he's human.
Khabib's slow, man. You know.
For me, the biggest red flag was transitions from striking to grappling.
He shot without setting anything up.
And far away, I'm like, oh shit. Well, Al's a phenomenal fighter, but Conor's movement, is second to none. So he's not going to be there, and that leaves you open to whatever he wants to do with those angles. So it's a good fight.
When I look at that fight, I think Khabib kicks his ass. I've always thought Khabib would kick his ass. I always thought Khabib would just go take him down and beat him up. I'm then confronted with the evidence that Chad Mendes also took him down but failed to beat him up. I'm also confronted with the evidence that I thought Jose Aldo would go out there and expose Conor and beat him up. I'm confronted with the fact that I thought Eddie Alvarez was going to go out there and beat him up. Well, when you look at Conor, you are left with the question, just how good is he, right? I do agree when you look at it. Yeah, it looks like Khabib can keep up with his conditioning. Khabib can pressure him. Khabib can take him down, keep him there, beat him up. Because we've seen Khabib do those things to so many other great guys. But we've seen Chad Mendes do it as well, and Chad Mendes had a very, very hard time keeping Conor down, and I can't tell you why. Some of those guys are slippery down there. Some of those guys just know how to move their hips. Some of those guys know how to turn and adjust and scramble and get back to their feet. And I'm not sure we know the answer to the question of how good is Conor. I'll tell you right now, I think he's in over his head.
I think if Khabib does not correct the mistake of sitting back with his chin back and going to the side, Conor's going to put his lights out with that left hand pretty bad, pretty quickly. But Conor McGregor on his back, I don't feel like he has look from the past, looking at everything, I don't feel like he has a strong spirit for fighting on the ground. So some guys have a real strong spirit. They can stand up all day for 5-10 rounds as long as they're standing up. But when it goes to the ground, their spirit weakens. So I don't think Conor has a strong enough spirit to be able to withstand Khabib's ground attack over and over and over and over. So I'd have to give the edge to Khabib.
What's his record? 25-0?
26 now.
26-0.
26-0.
That's amazing.
And he's barely tested.
Yeah.
He barely gets tested.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You see one little flaw in him, you get all excited.
Yeah.
He's like, ooh, look, he's keeping his
chin
chin
up. Who do you think
up.
win that fight?
What's that?
Who do you think win that fight?
It's a good question. The question is, can Conor catch him? Can Conor catch him while he's coming in?
Yeah.
And if Conor can catch him, well, Conor can knock anybody out.
Yeah.
I mean, you see what he did to Eddie Alvarez. You see what he did to Aldo. Nobody had ever done that to Aldo before.
That's the best strikers in the division.
Yeah. And what Conor has is incredible precision and the ability
he's fast. He's so fast.
So fast.
His speed, his angles. He moves, create an angle, and he just counter the shit out of the guys. And yeah, that's all he needs.
He also moves unusual. He moves almost like a karate guy.
Yeah, he does.
You know, like wide stance, but then knocks you out like a real pro boxer. Like
the only thing I'm doubting on Conor. Yeah, you know, he's the best striker, and all of that. But does he have the conditioning for Khabib?
That's a good question. Good
Khabib,
question.
he just keeps going and just
Different animal.
Yeah.
And it's also the wrestling.
Yeah.
Like Khabib's wrestling is not just a level above everybody else, but multiple levels.
Yeah.
Like he just.
I heard like heavy guys. I'm talking about heavyweights talking about Khabib's pressure on the ground being on top.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, taking that side belt, that seat belt around, taking his hands, moving that leg up. You just neutrals the guy totally. So.
Luke Rockhold said he never loses a round in training.
Oh, he said?
He said he doesn't lose a round.
Yeah,
He said
Khabib.
Khabib
Yeah.
doesn't lose a round. He just smashes everybody.
That's insane, man.
Everybody who wrestles with him are like, fuck, here
That's
we go.
insane.
Time to go through the grinder. It's like,
I think odds are in Conor's favor because it starts standing every round, and unless Khabib can take him down over and over and over again, right off the bat, I think the power's gonna be a little much.
Wow, so you got Conor in this. You think his stand-up is gonna?
I mean, I could be on the fence on this one because Khabib could take him down 100 times too.
Just hold him down.
Yeah, but the Mystic Mac has that little. He beat some good Chad Mendez, Jose Aldo. Like those guys don't get knocked out often.
Eddie Alvarez, bro.
Eddie Alvarez. Yeah, a lot of tough guys.
So if you're a betting man, you're going with Conor.
I think so.
I just don't see him beating Tony Ferguson.
See him beating Khabib?
I see him beating Khabib a lot easier than Tony.
Wow, I disagree.
A lot of people say that. A lot of people are high on Khabib. I don't know, man. I just
You've been calling Khabib out since
I've been calling Khabib out for years, bro. Years, bro. Khabib's got a lot of he's got a lot of holes in his game.
And
His
his
footwork's
striking.
terrible. His striking is terrible.
But his grappling is
it's
tough.
brutal.
It's tough.
But you just have to keep moving. You have to keep moving. You gotta not let him settle. I think that's what Tony's gonna do. I think Conor would sleep him. I think he would sleep Khabib.
Yeah,
He sleeps Khabib. He stands a much better chance versus Khabib than Tony. It seems when Khabib gets hit, he doesn't really expect it. He's just trying to push forward. Those are the punches I think that sting you a lot more. You see, Khabib will stop in his tracks because he's coming straight forward. And against somebody with a left hand like that, I don't know.
It's gonna be a good fight. I think it's great for the sport. I think it's gonna probably gonna break the record. You know what I mean, as far as the gate. So
What are your thoughts on that fight?
To be honest, I think Khabib is just such a machine. It's very difficult for anybody to stop him from applying that pressure on him. But Conor McGregor's been known to be stoic, be really relaxed.
Right.
And as we saw, Jose Aldo came in a little too happy with that face up, that crack. So if anybody can sneak a shot in, I think Conor's precise enough to do so.
Chad Mendez gave Conor problems on the ground, and Chad Mendez is no Khabib.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I would look back. The other thing I would point out is that, for me, I believe in guys being active. Like, Conor he's fought one MMA match in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
One. Khabib has been rolling over people. He's been making the weight consistently. He's been doing the right things. He's looked good reasonably. He hadn't been finishing anybody, but he's been winning.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know. I think Conor's a live dog in this. I think Khabib comes at him kind of square. Khabib kind of has that same rhythm, that same style. He keeps pushing forward, and he's consistent. He's tough. But Conor got that sleeper, though.
Sometimes
Conor had that sleeper with Chad Mendez, though. And Chad Mendez is a lot. His reach is not as long as Khabib, and he's definitely not as aggressive with the takedown and not as good at ground and pound once you get on top. So I think it's an even fight, to be honest.
The other thing I would point out is that the first 2 minutes of the Khabib-Michael Johnson fight, Michael Johnson was touching him with left hands. Touching him up. I feel like if Conor touches Khabib with those same left hands that Michael Johnson did,
a little bit more stank on it.
That fight
If he
might
just
be over.
sticks and move and keep touching him, from what I've seen from that Michael Johnson fight, his chin's not that great.
Well,
his stand-up's not it's not something where you look at it and goes, oh, it's too amazing.
His
where
stand-up works
you can't
because
mess with
of
him
the
on
pressure.
the feet.
Yeah.
The only thing he's got on everyone is that he knows how to take you to the cage, put that pressure on you, and then work that single leg, take you down, grind you out, get your arms tired in the first round, then you stand up, and then once your arms are pumped out, he does that for the rest of the rounds and just pretty much scores a decision. But
So you're calling him out. You guys heard that. He wants to fight Khabib next.
I want to fight Khabib. Yeah. I don't
like
I'm not the lightweight.
I like
you gotta get in line.
That's why I like Pete. You said I do want to fight.
Listen, I got nothing.
Actually, I do.
I have no business in the lightweight division, nor do I really want to go up there. I want to rule the 45 division. But if there's one guy that I look at as stylistic-wise, that's the guy I want to fight.
There it is.
As simple as that. You know what I'm saying?
Look, I
I gotta
can't
move
hate
up
that.
a weight class to fight the guy.
Yeah, look, you can't hate on that.
Yeah, I go back to Chad Mendes, right? And Chad didn't have only 12 days to train or something, and he put him on his back immediately, pretty much. And he had a problem on his back. Khabib is a guy who's not going to run out of gas in a full training camp, and he's going to be on him. Now, don't get me wrong, and I mean, Khabib's never been knocked out, nothing, but Conor can hit. He can really hit. And if he really uses footwork and he can land a shot and hope to capitalize on that, but I think once it goes to the ground, a guy like Khabib, it's just very hard to get off of you. Now, I don't know what he's been doing. He might have been wrestling even throughout his boxing camp that he had with Mayweather the back. I don't know, but he knows it's his Achilles heel. So he needs to work on that. And I have the same thing. I was pretty much the same as Conor. I was a great striker, but, I sucked at takedown defense. So, I don't know. It's a hard one. It's a puncher's chance. He uses a lot of footwork, and he can tag him, and he can actually knock him out, stop him. Yeah, it will. That Conor can do it, but can he knock him out? That's the question. Otherwise, it's going to be one of those fights that it's going to be grueling. It's going to be constantly on him. If you face a really good striker, there's nothing worse to fight him constantly pushing forward. Now you're going to need a lot of stamina for that. But then again, you're wearing your opponent out as well. So it's like the Cormier fights and Cain Velasquez, like that. The best strikers have difficulty with that because you can't put your feet down, and all the power comes from the foot. If I can't push off of my back foot, I can't put my body weight in the punch. Now, it doesn't mean that I can still knock him out. Of course I can. There's guys that get punched out with a punch like that. I'm not saying that. But, in order to get a big guy and a strong guy, yeah, you want to have your foot on the floor, or 2 feet on the floor with hooks and uppercuts, and at least your back foot on the floor once you start throwing straight punches.
His stand-up works
you can't
because
mess with him
of the
on the
pressure.
feet.
Yeah.
The only thing he's got on everyone is that he knows how to take you to the cage.
If I have to bet, if I have to bet,
I have to put the house on it.
If I have to put my house on it,
one of them.
The biggest one. If I have to put my house on it, I would have to choose Khabib over Conor. Khabib never lost. He never lost. And Conor have lost before. He have lost on the ground. He have a few losses, and he lost on the ground, where Khabib is good. That's where Khabib is the most competent as. However, Khabib sometimes is a slow starter, and he get punched a lot.
Michael Johnson.
Yes, he didn't look good in the beginning of the fight, and he's hard sometimes to close distance. You have a problem to close the distance, but once he got you in the clinch, he's very good. So I believe the chance, the odds goes on Khabib's favor, like maybe 60-40. I believe
Khabib has more chance to win that fight than Conor. Conor has one way to win the fight. It will be if you catch him on the way in, standing up. Khabib, I think, has more chance to win. He can win by submission on the ground. He can win by ground and pound. If he goes to decision, the chances are very likely that is Khabib that's gonna win. I see more ways to win from Khabib than I see from Conor.
What's your opinion on that fight? When you first heard it, where are we at on that?
When I heard it a while ago and didn't think it was going to happen, my money was on Khabib.
Yeah.
After Khabib's last performance against Al, I know Al's a good guy, a good fighter as well too.
Amazing fighter.
I just don't think his stand-up's there.
No,
I just don't.
I agree.
I feel like Conor's just got that left hand. He's fast. He's going to be able to use his angles, his crazy kicks.
His footwork.
And I've always underestimated the guy. And then
Conor?
Yeah. Like all these, Eddie Alvarez. Oh, Eddie Alvarez is going to run through
I know.
him.
I thought it was a terrible matchup for him.
Jose Aldo's going to beat him.
I know. I look at I did the exact same thing before Khabib fought Al.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I do not want to see Conor fight Khabib. Yeah. This is gonna be a terrible matchup for him. And I watched that Al fight. I'm like, oh shit, he's human.
Khabib's slow, man.
And for me, the biggest red flag was transitions from striking to grappling.
He shot without setting anything up. Yeah.
And far away, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh shit. Well, Al's a phenomenal fighter, but Conor's movement, is second to none. So he's not going to be there, and that leaves you open to whatever he wants to do with those angles. So it's a good fight.
When I look at that fight, I think Khabib kicks his ass. I've always thought Khabib would kick his ass. I always thought Khabib would just go take him down and beat him up. I'm then confronted with the evidence that Chad Mendes also took him down but failed to beat him up. I'm also confronted with the evidence that I thought Jose Aldo would go out there and expose Conor and beat him up. I'm confronted with the fact that I thought Eddie Alvarez was going to go out there and beat him up. Well, when you look at Conor, you are left with the question, just how good is he, right? I do agree when you look at it, yeah, it looks like Khabib can keep up with his conditioning. Khabib can pressure him. Khabib can take him down, keep him there, beat him up.
Conor.
What's your opinion on the fight?
Time runs out on me. Amazing.
I bring life.
Well played. I wonder.
When Earth moves, empires fall. I'm almost out of cards.
Well played. Well played.
Jaina versus Uther. I will fight with honor.
You asked for it.
You're now listening to Dancing at Vanguard Productions.
see what I'm saying? Listen. Read through the rules. Listen to me. Okay? You must protect yourself at all times. Follow my commands at all times. Understand?
The belt as well. I want that belt back. This is my 5 fights on my contract for Cage Warriors. That's my first. I should send out a message to all the little scrawny featherweights out there. He was a stone heavier. He was a stone heavier than me, but my God, you little scrawny ass.
Come on.
Tomorrow I take his head clean off. Have that head. Every featherweight head I'm coming for.
I've never disliked somebody that much that I've ever fought. I've never disliked somebody that much that I've ever fought.
All you gotta do is look at Dustin's last couple of fights. You know, the last contest he had, he fought a tough reject, an Ultimate Fighter reject. Nobody gave a shit about it, and he got wobbled about 40 times. His chin is deteriorating. Every single contest he gets in, he hits one knee. He does a gust of wind, and he does the chicken dance. You know what I mean? His weakness is obviously his chin. You know, look, don't get me wrong. I like the kid. He's a quiet little hillbilly from the back arse of nowhere. You know, I've nothing against the guy, you know what I mean? I'm sure he grew up in a circus or a fair, you know, he's a nice little kid. So, Cletus, or, you know, his cousin's probably named Cletus or something. I don't know, he's a nice kid. But his chin is gonna be cracked, and it's gonna be cracked early. I don't relax, I don't celebrate, I sit and plot. I went home and sat in a dark room and plotted out who's next. And now here we are, Las Vegas, Dustin P-Head Poirier is next.
What you got? That all you got? That's what I said. Bomb, just above the ear, the perfect legal shot.
I will use my movement to freeze him, and then I will take his head clean off and raise it in beautiful Boston City, you know, Ireland #2, I like to call it. My thoughts on Dennis Siver is he's a midget German steroid head. That's my thoughts on him, so I don't have any thoughts other than that. But if you think, you said congratulations, I'm now #9. If you think I celebrate #9, you're highly mistaken, my friend. I don't give a shit about rankings. As far as I'm concerned, I'm #1. And when Dustin's head clatters off that canvas, they'll realize pretty soon. But they gave him a little couple of minutes slot on an embedded series that the UFC releases, and I swear to God, I couldn't even look at the guy for more than 2 minutes. He's a weird-looking gremlin type of creature. I don't know whether it is a narcotic mutation that has deformed his head slightly, or he just looks like a weird, oddly-looking individual. So maybe I would buy him a trip to a plastic surgery. I don't know what I would do.
Oh wow!
I'm gonna stiffen him up, and that's his birthday present from me.
Our main event of the year, notorious Conor McGregor.
That's 145. That's championship weight. Tell Jose I'm coming.
He has definitely got Dennis Siver's attention.
Mendez is 5'5". His reach is like that. He can't even. I'd put my hand and hold my hand on his forehead, and he wouldn't even be able to hit me.
How tall are you, buddy?
5'9".
All right, I'm 5'6".
You're 5'4" at least.
3 inches taller than me, buddy.
5'4" at least. You should stand up because we can barely see you on the screen.
Conor, do you know what wrestling is?
I could rest my balls on your forehead.
Yeah, I know.
Watch me destroy Chad Mendes this Saturday night live on pay-per-view. You know, I am done talking. All I just need is a body to show up, a sacrificial lamb to show up in the MGM July 11th in front of my hometown, and I will demolish them.
There's gonna be a lot of people tuning in.
They ain't tuning in for you, Chad. Let's call a spade here. I'm gonna fucking butcher you. You should have stayed home, kid.
I'm gonna
you shouldn't have answered that phone, yeah? You shouldn't have answered that phone.
Conor, do you think Chad is a tougher fight than Jose?
I think Chad is the substitute, the B level.
Talking about some tweets that you sent to Jose Aldo, and he said
pussy move, yeah? That was a pussy move. Little
You're
coward.
a pussy, dude.
Trying to be friendly. You're trying to be little friends with him. Oh, please, can I have your fans? It's a bitch move, yeah? It's what a man does when he's close to death. Yeah, his facial structure will be rearranged after the fight.
He is a novice on the feet. He swings the overhand, looks at the floor, closes his eyes, hopes for the best. You know, I don't see smoothness in the wrestling exchanges. I'm gonna kill this man across from me. He's a little 5'2" twerp. He should have kept his mouth shut, and I'm gonna slap the face off him, and that's it.
It's another day for me. I have no problem with him being around. I would pat him on the head, sit him on my lap. He should be here right now. It makes no difference. Thank you.
144.5 for Mr. Mendez.
We've been over the rules. Protect yourself at all times. Follow my instructions. Touch gloves.
Chad looking to utilize his wrestling early. Yeah, Connor is timing that.
All right, gentlemen. We've been over the rules. Protect yourself at all times. Follow my instructions. Touch gloves if you wish. Come out ready to fight.
Utilize his wrestling early. Yeah. Utilize his wrestling. Right. Chad looking to utilize his wrestling early. Yeah, Connor is timing that very well. Oh, there.
And I told him in there, you hit like a bitch, you hit like a girl.
Watch him.
I think I might have buried Chad out here somewhere. I think I might have dumped Chad's body out here somewhere. And this looks familiar out here. I own this town, yeah? I own Rio. Where's Jose? He's not even here. Rumor has he fled the country. I'm coming. Tell him I'm coming. I own this town. I own Rio de Janeiro. So for him to say he is the king and I am the joker, if this was a different time, I would invade his favela on horseback.
Tonight's Fight Clock is brought to you by Modelo Especial, brewed with a fighting spirit since 1925. Nurmagomedov in red, Al Iaquinta in blue.
There's a vulnerability in Nurmagomedov. It's when he comes looking for a takedown. He carries his chin a little high.
Yeah, but here's the question. Does Al go for broke, or does he try to win a long fight? What's his mindset coming into here? Is he going to try to fight 5 rounds, or is he going to try to just kamikaze and take this dude out in the first round?
Interesting question.
Khabib's last 2 opponents, very good defensive wrestlers, Michael Johnson and Edson Barboza. Nurmagomedov still had his way with them and largely was able to take them down at will.
With Iaquinta threatening with the takedown. Ooh.
We did hear some rumblings. He might try to do some offensive wrestling early.
Beasted him down.
Right away.
So about a minute in, Nurmagomedov gets his first takedown. Let's see what he can do with it.
A bad sign. If you're going to get taken down by Nurmagomedov, you've got to make him expend a lot of energy going for it. He got it very quickly.
Yeah, let's see what kind of half guard Al has. Now he's in side control. He's going to give up his back if he just tries to muscle out of this.
Both hooks in.
He gave up his back. Feet down. Look at this.
From his work ethic, his team that goes 25 or 30 deep.
I think not the same kind of dynamic in and out movement, sharp shooting punches, and ridiculous one-punch power. He's a different animal. But he's surviving with toughness and with pure insanity.
let's not forget he wrestling back, low in that stance, he's wide with his feet.
Yes.
He's approaching like a wrestler would, and that's an important component.
Quinta, former wrestler at Nassau County Community College.
Never been to a championship fight.
And let's also not
The energy out of Quinta. Wrestling wise, he's so good at it.